So when you first asked the question, you said that when you did some self-reflection, that was great, doing some self-reflection, and you were able to identify 3 things. The next part, you said, you started thinking about that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but what comes for me is that it's like I said before, many of us we have a huge mountain in front of us, and it's our, whatever you want to call it, problems, darkness, unconsciousness, ego, right? Behind it is the sun, the light. Now, most of us are turning our backs to the mountain. So at first you said there was pain, right? Pain and fear, etc. And it's like, that's good. You're looking at the mountain and saying, you identify something in the mountain, but then you started thinking about it, trying to use the mind to overcome it. So it's like as if you are now building structures, building a building so that you can defend yourself, maybe get a gun, to try and shoot the mountain, when really the solution is not to think about it or methods or techniques, but rather learn how to simply walk right into the fear, walk right into the mountain. And how is that done? Of course, there's no way to do that, at least not with the mind and thinking, but rather one has to simply find the being and find the way to sit with the pain and feel it. Because you said, right, there's procrastination too. Yes, because when we see pain and then we create structures, creating structures and methods and techniques is all part of, it's a sort of procrastination in a way. So my best advice is, when you do that self-reflection, when you see something and you identify it, slow down. I would say try not to identify so much more, because now you've identified one aspect of your ego, and that's good. That's great. I would sit with that, let it be your object of meditation. And what I mean by that is not ignore it, right? As you said, you identified it. So now don't ignore it, but simply sit with it. It's like inviting a bad guy, right? A villain into your room and making some hot milk and cookies and, inviting it to sit down with you by the fire and simply get to know it. You can even ask it questions. Why are we feeling fear here, buddy? What's going on, right? That's all part of meditation, just simply to go into yourself rather than trying to find ways to go around it. Sorry, I just saw your comment. Would that not be me analyzing? Sorry, I did mute you because I think your computer is making like a lot of noise. I'll unmute you in a minute, but would that not me be analyzing? It's okay to allow the analysis of the intellect to give you some answers, but as long as we're identified with analyzing, the analyzing it's too much, Analyzing is only a very small part of the meditation. If we stay with and if we rely on analyzing, we'll never stop. The way of being of analyzing never stops. It always will try to do what it does, which is just analysis, bringing up more questions, more confusions, more doubts. So it's also about stepping back from analyzing, detaching from analyzing too, observing, self-observing your process of how you try to overcome problems. Detachment from analysis will give you more power in analysis too. That's a paradox. But first is to be calm, not react, not identify when we see and identify egos and problems. And I'm not going to share my ego and problems, but you only listed 3, right? I can list easily over 100 problems, but that's okay. And I can handle it all too, calmly. And I'll let my analyzing mind handle it all without me doing anything, without me as my inner being in my core. It doesn't do anything. We say, right, don't identify with anything. If I have to identify with anything, it would be my being which does nothing. My intellect, Master Samael says it in his own way. He says, let the intellect be in its own orbit. In terms of the zodiac, we relate the intellect to Mercury. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and it's also one of the smallest planets in the solar system. And we have a huge solar system, right? Many planets, and they're huge. They're all so powerful. And the intellect is only so small. And that's how Master Samael says it, to keep the intellect in its own orbit. It just does what it does. It's just a little thinker, nothing more. It can't solve all our problems. Also about external people polluting the heart, I think it's the same similar sort of approach to allow whatever there is to be, and you can also bring that into meditation too, to recognize that it's never external people that hurt us, but it is us that uphold their reality through our thinking. And it's funny when we have grudges with other people from the past, right? We can really start to see how we can start to see our own insanity, the insanity of the ego, right? Some people we haven't seen for years, but we still haven't forgiven them. When the reality is they're not even in our lives. And it could be that they're having a very blissful and peaceful life. And there's, why are we're really only hurting ourselves, right? I saw a quote the other day. It said, we suffer more from imagination than reality. And so that's what meditation is all about, to get in touch with our own imagination and how we can also use it in the most effective way possible. And that first starts by not abusing it, not expecting so much, not trying to change so much, just letting the tensions in the imagination relax. Mm-hmm. So as you said, right, there's analysis using the intellect. Use that, do it in a more constructive way. Of course, just sitting there thinking, right, we don't want to wallow in our ego, right? That's useless, right? That's counterproductive. We might just feel worse after it. So we have to train ourselves to have some sort of insight to allow ourselves to let go of it. So we can do it in a systematic way too, by going through experiences and going through them in our imagination. For example, if we had an argument with someone, once we're feeling better, we sit down and we use our imagination without identifying with any of it and simply go through it all and simply detach. You can even say to yourself, I do not identify with this. And you can try to extract some kind of wisdom from it. And it takes time to. This isn't to say that meditating with something in mind will give you results in one day. For example, in the Gnostic teachings, we're taught that focus on one ego, and it will take around, let's say, on average, 2 months to dissolve one ego. So that means if you have a problem that you would like to dissolve, an ego that you would like to transcend, make a commitment to learn from it during that time. And you can also ask for guidance from this too. In your prayers, ask for guidance for this. Command, that you want to now be able to let go of this attachment that is causing suffering. And the rest really is a sort of a grace and patience. It's not exactly you doing so much, but having faith, grace and patience that the wisdom will come as you just simply continue in your own practice. Yeah, that's usually how I find things happen too. If something If something happens in my life that I would like to know about, a part of myself, I don't so much try to think of any systems to overcome it. But now I know that this is just a part of my focus, something that part of my daily reflection that I keep mindful of. And I will simply continue my practices, transmutation, meditation, and usually the insights and the learning come naturally.